Hello.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, y'all. I'm Lisa Kipps-Brown, the host of Adaptable Entrepreneurs, and I am happy to have my friend Jean Latham with me here today.
Hey.
Jean is in Wisconsin.
I am.
And she's the owner of a business called A New Golden Age. And Jean, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell a bit about your background and your business.
Well, super. And I'm Lisa, first of all, I'm so excited about being on your show. I know you have been doing this for a while, and I'm watching some of the guests that you've had on there and just the conversations. And I'm super excited about having the opportunity to do that tonight. So yeah, this new golden age. So first of all, I'll just preface it with what it's all about in terms of where I'm coming from. I'm 58 years old. And oh my gosh, back in probably.
And I'm 59. You know what? We're like, woo, woo. I'm proud of it, and I'm glad that you're proud of it.
I am too. I mean, people ask me all the time, and they're like, how old are you? And people, some women especially, are kind of like, ooh, that was really personal. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like probably the best place that I've ever been in my entire life in terms of where my life is going and the energy and the excitement that I feel about just what the opportunities are. But backing up a little bit, so I in my mid-40s, I had kind of thought about this idea of putting together a platform where people that could go, we're like that 40-ish, kind of doing that, transitional place in your life, where they could go and get good current information. And at that time, I mean, this is 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago, there was not a lot out there. There was not a lot of places to go. There was, of course, everybody's familiar with ARP, but ARP is kind of, it's a different type of audience. So I was looking for something that had current trending information about people that wanted to live super vibrant lifestyles and keep active and be healthy and all those things. And so I wrote a business plan. I put it up on the shelf. A few years ago, I looked at it again, and I was like, boy, this is a good idea, because you're just seeing the writing on the wall, right? With people living longer and working longer and all of those things. And so probably about a year and a half ago, I literally pulled it out and I started getting really serious. And so here's the deal. I have no background in any kind of digital platforms. And first of all, podcasts, up until 2 years ago, I probably had never even listened to one. Wasn't quite sure how they all worked and stuff. And so, but I started putting ideas on paper about what I wanted this to look like and the audience that I wanted to speak to. And what I came up with was essentially, and I hate to even put an age on it, because some people might be thinking about these things when they're 40s, some might be waiting until they're 65. But, here's the deal. As I said, everybody is living longer. They have to work longer. I think people are much more active. They're living vibrant lifestyles. They want to stay healthy. They want, we live a different life than our. And so I decided that was going to be my platform. And so I'm super excited and thrilled about it. And I'm going forward. So a little bit of history with that. I ended up having to take a little pause. And so this is a really classic story, I think, of what happens. As I was out trying to figure out what I wanted for content and the type of categories and the topics that I wanted to talk about, pretty much everybody that I was talking to in conversation was telling me very similar stories, totally different backgrounds, but very similar stories. They want to be healthy. They want to stay active. They want to have good relationships. They want to be connected to their community. They want, they want to be financially secure. So it was kind of those, 3, 4, 5 things that just kept resonating with me in terms of the conversations that I was having. And so I'm like, bingo, these are my topics, right? And so there's a lot of other topics that I will probably delve into in my podcast as it unrolls. But basically, the big thing that I'm doing is trying to educate, inform, and inspire people about really what's out there, what are the opportunities? Because again, we're living different lifestyles, and most people I know, like you and I mean, we're super active. I'm going harder and faster than I did when I was probably 40 years old.
Same. Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Lisa, that I absolutely, so if somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, yeah, you can do that, but I can't.
Yeah.
That's my motivation to help people get inspired about things, is to give them those stories, give them the tools to figure out how they want to make these changes and live this life maybe that they kind of always thought about, but they didn't know how they were going to get there. And so, I'm thrilled. I can't be more thrilled as far as the responses that I've got. And I did have to stop my story, but I did have to take a break this summer. And here's what happened is,
I was going to say, you have to tell them about that. So the people who were saying, oh yes, of course she can do it.
Yeah.
Beautiful, vibrant, slim and trim and whatever. Well, now Jean's going to tell you why you can't judge things by what people look like.
Yeah. So here's how it rolled. So I launched my podcast on March 10th. So I'm doing all the right things. I put all these episodes in, lined them up, and I'm ready to go. And guess what happened in mid-March? And we all know what happened. And so now I have this content that I've got prepared, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just have to put it out, right? So I'm like, whatever, it's not perfect, but here I go. And so I was going along pretty well. And then I had, since March, I have had 4 hospitalizations for some extremely unexpected health issues. And I'm still kind of in process of figuring out what those are. But I literally had to stop for 2 months because I really had some significant health challenges going on. And the last hospitalization that I had, which thank God was like 2 months ago, but that was the scariest one. I was super sick. I ended up in the hospital for like 5 days. They couldn't really figure out what was going on with me, but my body was under so much duress. I was full of infection, and what happened was they think I had a slight heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
Mind you,
nobody would look at you and think, heart attack.
Yeah. So mind you, that happens and you're like, okay, I need to get my life together. And so, that's been my I have spent literally the last 2 months just completely working on my health, getting myself back up to speed to where I feel, physically healthy, and, just being really mindful of the time that I'm spending and stuff like that. But yeah, it was an eye opener. And I've like completely modified my diet, and I'm working out, and I'm just trying to keep a good, healthy balance right now. So, I'm speaking from experience, and I honestly never in a million years ever thought something like that would happen to me. I felt like I was pretty healthy,
Well, good for you for being so positive about it. And instead of wallowing in misery and self-pity, you're like, I'm going to get up and go. And, you had already been sick when we first met. I guess it's been a couple of months ago. You had been sick. They hadn't figured it out, but you kind of thought you were getting your groove back. Right. And the next thing I knew, you were in the hospital. Right. And I was so shocked. I'm like, I haven't heard from Jean for a few days. Where's Jean?
Yeah.
And when you said that you were in the hospital, I was just really shocked. So I'm so proud of you for not letting it get you down. Every time I've ever talked to you, you've been so positive. And that doesn't mean that you don't get down. It doesn't mean that you live with blinders on, or that you just have this false happiness. I can't stand it when people do that. They're like,
exactly.
I act like this, but you put things in its place. You deal with it the best you can. You put it in its place. You worry about the things that you can control. The things you can't control, just push them to the side, and you keep on keeping on. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. it is. It's just, you got to keep things in perspective. And I think you hit on it too. Your attitude, you have to keep that positive attitude. And I'm not 110% on top of my game every day, but most days I feel like it. And we all have days where you're kind of like, oh, you just kind of have getting going or whatever. But it's definitely a mind game. And I'll tell you honestly, the other thing that has really helped me a lot is getting back into the fitness aspect of it and working out. So I'm pretty much working out every day, and I definitely have some things that I still need to improve. But I'll tell you, I can have the crappiest attitude, and I go jump on even just a treadmill. I don't even care what it is. Like, you go do something, and then those endorphins,
when I have those days that I'm like, I have to do something, I'll make a deal with myself. Just do anything for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter what, even if you're on the phone and walk in the house while you're, do something for 10 minutes. And almost every time, if I will do that, I end up wanting to keep on going. It's when you're sitting on the sofa thinking, I should be doing such and such. You know, that's when it's the worst, because you're basically spending all this time worrying about him, feeling guilty, and you could have just gotten up and done it.
And did it, you know, and that is so true, Lisa.
Yeah. It is. One thing that I'm like, what am I going to do? Every summer, I like to push mow. So I will mow for hours every summer. We have a bunch of hills in our yard. And so, I mean, I might mow 9 miles in a day. You know, I have a Fitbit, so it's like so I was telling my husband the other day, I've got to come up with something to do this winter. I love working out, but I don't have anybody to work out with like I did when we lived in the place that we used to live. And so I have a hard time getting motivated. I'm more like, I like to go to classes and stuff, and I love lifting weights, but I don't know. I'm kind of, so the thing with mowing is it's strength, it's cardio, but I'm also achieving something. So I'm not really thinking about the exercise.
I'm sweating on, oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, I can be totally out of breath, but I don't even think about it because I'm so into it. And I get into like this Zen state that runners do.
Right.
I could never do that running. I'm like, oh my God, I'm miserable.
I'm going to die. I'm sure of it. You know, it is so true though. And it's mind over matter. And, you know, honestly, the biggest inspiring thing, even there's mornings I get up and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to go to the gym to do this, you know, but literally within 10 minutes after I've gotten going, I'm like, you know what, I feel so much better. But however you do that, you've got to get yourself in some kind of system or habit to get yourself, move yourself out of bed, make yourself go. And I promise you that as soon as you do that and you do it, whatever, for a few weeks, it really does become part of your routine. And my thing is too, here's my deal. And this is the other part of my New Golden Age and the platform is I plan on living another 25, 30 years easily. I could, as long as I take care of myself. And here I want to be able to live the best, fullest, healthiest life that I possibly can during that time. And so I knew, I mean, the writing was on the wall. I mean, I didn't tell the whole story, but here's one of the things. I had to have a heart catheterization, and I found out that I have 30% blockage in one of my main arteries.
Oh my gosh.
Heart disease. I have heart disease. I have heart disease in our family. My dad, you know, passed away not too long ago. And so I was like, oh my.
So you do have a history of heart disease in your family.
Yeah. And I mean, I've always ate well and pretty well, you know, taken care of my body pretty well. So that's the genetic part of it. But then they found a couple other things. I have a valve that's leaking, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have any of this, you know. So, but here's the thing, it's all fixable. Everything that I've got going on, and that's what I feel super fortunate about.
Great.
I'm able to smile like every day. Everything that I've got going on that I went through, it's not cancer. It's not some debilitating disease. It's something that I can take control of.
Right. You're blessed. And you found out in time, you can take control of it, and you just have to get up and do it. Too many people just give up though, even when it's something that they can take control of. That's one of the things that I love about what you're doing, Jean, is that it's holistic. It isn't finance or this or that. It's, you have to look at the big picture, everything in moderation, but it's your whole life is your body, your mind, spirit, money, everything. And I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just one piece of it. I mean, if you don't have money, and they say money's not everything, but if you don't have money, you're probably not going to have that great of a life. If you don't have your health, you're probably not going to have that great of a life. If you don't have people in your life, you're probably not going to have that great a life. And so you've got to figure out, you know, first of all, those three things I feel like are absolutely critical that people need to you know, to have a handle on and to have that as their focus. And then you got to figure out what's your purpose, like more than just your finances and your health, like what moves you, and so and what inspires you, I guess. And you know, one of the things I love talking to you, Lisa, is the fact that we have had, you know, some great conversations about what you do in terms of helping people fix their businesses and make them, operationally a lot better. But, there's so many people that I talk to during the course of my day, since I've been doing this, is these people are, they're 55 or 60 or 65 years old. And they're like, God, I wish I always wanted to be an artist, or I always wanted to be a yoga teacher, whatever it might be.
Do it.
Yeah, and do it. Exactly. Like there's no time better than right now is to do it. And if that's what you dream and aspire to, figure out a way to build that business, maybe even while you're still working.
Right.
Or,
especially if you're still working, unless you just happen to have a lot of money laying around.
Exactly. And so, and we know that everyone is going to have to work, our age is going to have to work a whole bunch longer.
Yes.
Nobody's going to, well, I shouldn't say, I mean, some people, if they financially have, whatever, been blessed enough to be able to quit work or leave work when they're 62, but
you know what? If they don't find something, it doesn't have to be paid. It doesn't have to be a job. But if they don't find something that gives them purpose, whether it's volunteering or whatever, they're going to be miserable.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking about starting a business, a guy named Todd Connor, who founded Bunker Labs, is going to be on the show in a few weeks. He just released his book, or I think it might have just come out today. It was on pre-order. It's called Third Shift Entrepreneur. So anybody out there who is either interested in starting a business while you're still working, or if you have a business but you still have a job, whatever, Todd's book, I can't wait to read it. He has helped launch so many small businesses throughout America.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
the other thing is you have to have a purpose. A guy that I know here locally sold a business, very successful business, sold it in December. And a mutual friend said that he said, I'm going to the islands. I'm going to kick back.
Right.
And after about a month, he was back. He was like, okay, I can't do that forever. I can't just lay on the beach and sip cocktails forever. I got to have something to do. So, he took about a month and decompressed and everything, and then realized, no, I'm not ready to not do anything.
And that exactly.
Imagine not doing anything.
Right. Well, and you can't. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe some people can, and they can be content. But I mean, if you want to continue to live a healthy life, you better figure out what's going to keep you stimulated, both your mind and your body. Because it's anybody that that just kind of sits back in the recliner in front of the TV, is oftentimes.
That's what happened to my grandmother. She lived to be 87, and her mind was fine. People that know me out there, and I've said, because I would work on this suicide prevention thing, my grandmother shot herself in the head when I was eight years old. She lived to be how old I was. I don't even know. I was in my 30s. She lived like 30 more years just because of the way the bullet went through. My point, though, is that she was so depressed, she did not stay active. She just kind of stopped, and therefore her body was still alive and her mind was fine, but her body gave out because she didn't stay active. Right. So you have to keep going, and whether it's volunteering, reading, whatever it is, figure out what builds you up and makes you feel good inside. And that's the thing. Gardening, whatever it is.
Right. Well, and I think nowadays, obviously, even though we didn't necessarily grow up in the era of technology, there's so much opportunity to connect with people, and especially now with the COVID thing, and not being able to physically be with someone, but there are so many communities that are being built that are so amazing, where you can connect with people, whether it's in your neighborhood or, across the country. And honestly, that's a big piece of what I want to create, or am creating right now with the New Golden Age, is the community piece of it. Because every conversation, absolutely every conversation that I have with any of my guests on my podcast, it always comes back, doesn't matter what the topic is, always comes back to community over and over again.
Yeah.
So figuring out ways, going forward in this technology and this world that we're in right now, I feel like that is going to be a huge explosion of opportunity for people to, to expand and expand
Mhm.
their views and ideas. But you got to go out there and look for it. It's not going to come to you. You've got
Yeah,
to.
just because there's the internet doesn't mean it's gonna magically show up on your doorstep, delivered by Amazon or whatever. You
Right.
still have to put the work into it. I was gonna say Lewis Coleman said, "Great stuff." Lewis, and I hope I'm not getting Lewis mixed up with somebody else, but Lewis is local, and I believe that he is my friend that walks almost 40 miles a day. And Lewis, I'm very sorry if it isn't you. I'm very sorry if I have that wrong, but even if I'm wrong, I see that he posts his steps every day, and I'm like, you go. I think it's awesome. And I believe he started because he had heart disease or something. But it
Mhm.
just shows you have to put your mind into it. You have to have goals, and you have to stay busy.
Right.
The other thing is that we spoke earlier about our ages, and that we don't care who knows how old we are. I
Right.
honestly do not care.
Right.
There's so many people who are embarrassed about it. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be 30 again. I don't
Yeah.
want to be a teenager or whatever.
Yeah.
It was great when I had it, but I've been there, done that. I don't want to do it. And what we need to remember is we are the sum total of all of our experiences throughout our life.
Exactly what I was just gonna say. Exactly. I mean, honestly, I feel like I wear my age with like a badge of honor. Like I
Yeah.
hate it because we've all been through some bad stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, we can
It
sit.
came out the other side.
Yeah, I mean, and we did. We've all went through challenges. Deaths and divorces and whatever, finances and all those things. But you come out the other side, and exactly what you said, Lisa, is we are culmination of all of our experiences. And if you can't take your experiences right now at our age, or whoever's listening to this that's thinking about, oh God, I'm washed up, I can't, I'm 50 or whatever, and what am I going to do? You need to rethink and relook at what you've got in your toolbox, because I totally believe that these experiences can be turned and morphed into being something that is, whether it's a business or help to another person that you tell your story to. I don't care what it is, but you've got a bucket of gold, basically.
Exactly. And every single person is different. And I know that sounds cliche, but there is nobody on the earth who has the sum total of all of your experiences.
Right.
And therefore, you are irreplaceable, and you have many things of value that other people can learn from.
Absolutely.
My mother used to say, and I had never thought of this, but she used to say, every time an elderly person dies, it's like another library closes its doors.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, it's so true, because except with a library, at least it's physical books, but once you are gone, everything that's in your head, your memories, your experiences are gone, unless you have figured out a way to pass them along to other people, teach them, help them, train them, write about it, or whatever. And everybody has something of value for other people to learn from.
For sure, for sure. And that's interesting. That topic too is, people obviously, as you get to this certain point in your life, are very concerned about their legacy and what they're going to leave. And, many people think, well, it's money.
Right.
But it could be ideas, or it could be, just how you want your family to, family relationships to continue on, or whatever it might be. But I will tell you exactly what you're just talking about now. Like honestly, one of my big reasons, not only do I physically want to live a healthy, good life, but I have 2 grandbabies, and they are the light of my life. I have a 12-year-old, just turned 12, and a 9-year-old boy and a girl.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say like babies.
No.
Oh, God.
Seriously, like they keep me going. Like we do so many fun things together, and
that's cool.
I mean, like active things, like we've biked and hiked and kayaked, and I don't always get to spend as much time as I want to now, because they're getting a little bit older. But when we're together, we have the extremely quality time, and I will guarantee you, every one of those memories that we create together, that we have together, they can tell a funny story or something that happened. And I'll tell this quick story of what happened last summer. So my grandson is an avid biker, and he likes like mountain biking.
Yeah.
And, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and so there's some great bike trails and stuff around here. And he says we found this trail, and it was like I don't want to say mountain biking, but it was a pretty rugged trail, right in the city here, and it was pretty rustic. But that's those kind of bikers like that stuff.
Yeah.
I can do this. I've got a good bike. And my granddaughter went with us too. And it was probably one of the hottest days of the summer. It was probably about 92 and it was super humid and it was very woodsy and there was bugs, everywhere. And I'm like, okay, I signed up for this. We're going to do it. And he's super excited about it. Super excited, right? And so we rode trails for probably, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours that day. And then right at the end of the trail, towards the end, literally my granddaughter and I were walking our bikes down these shale inclines that were like 90 degrees. So I'm like, I do not want to break a bone, right? Yeah. kind of limited a little bit. But we did that. And Gabe said to me, he was just like, Lala, he said, it was like one of the funnest days ever. Like that level of experience. And then we got on our bikes and we decided to ride probably another 7 or 8 miles and it was so hot.
That's great, though. Those are times that are irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
And not only are y'all spending the time together, bonding and everything, but they're learning. They're learning skills, interpersonal skills that they can carry forward into the future generations. I think that's so cool. And I don't want to sound all cliche and everything, but we have to remember that we're not going to be here forever. Right. And we have to figure out what, how can we leave a footprint on Earth that's valuable, that helps people move along.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, my big thing is, I don't have grandchildren yet. My kids are grown. They're 30 and 32, but I don't have grandchildren yet. But my big thing right now is helping to prevent veteran suicide. Through the NASCAR team that I do the pro bono marketing strategy for. And it's kind of ironic because, here in my later years, it's circling back to my childhood because my grandfather killed himself when I was 5. My grandmother tried to 3 years later. And, I've been okay. It's not like it destroyed my life or anything, but it's always there. And people don't understand the ripple effects that go out. Yeah. So I think it's really cool. This, I wasn't planning on doing this. It just kind of evolved. But I think it's really cool that something negative in my childhood, I know firsthand what it's like. So therefore it helps me be more motivated to help other people.
Right.
And that's what we need to do. We need to figure out how can we take what I know and help other people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of the mental health part of it too, I just think right now, I feel like we can't have this discussion today without talking a little bit about that. And I think there's so many people and not just people that are 50 plus or 60 plus or 70 plus even that are, feeling isolated. And this has just been really for anybody with or without mental health challenges, I think has been just extremely difficult time. And, again, I had to be quarantined for 10 days this summer before I had a procedure done. And I actually thought I was doing fine through all of this. And I normally am. I'm talking to people and I'm Zooming and I'm, out and about a little bit. And boy, I'll tell you what, on top of all those health, the health stuff and that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I was just lost. And I pulled myself back together, but there was a period of time like being, completely no physical contact, is a super hard thing to, for humans, because we all want that social contact. We want that social interaction, of course. And so I feel like this season, particularly with going, with the COVID thing is, another reason for people to reach out and to do some of the things that we talked about. But there's so much of that out there. And then unfortunately, the systems are a bit overloaded as well. So it's real hard for people to get help, or maybe, they just don't reach out or whatever. But I think it's a really big epidemic.
And I believe that we have no clue of the long-term effects on everybody, because none of us have ever gone through anything like this. Not only us, but the country and the world. We've never gone through a time that we've all been so isolated as much, and it's really scary and sad to think about what there might be to come. So we really have to make a conscious effort to not only take care of ourselves, but to reach out to other people, even if it means, pick up the phone and call people. Don't just send them a message. People need to hear other people's voices.
Mhm.
And, I cared for my mom the last 4 years of her life. She had Alzheimer's, and that happened right as I thought, this is my time. My kids had moved out. I'm like, yes, this is my time to build my business how I really want it, even though I owned it since 96.
Mhm.
This was going to be my time because I wasn't, raising kids and stuff anymore. And then right after that, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And, my husband and I wanted to care for her, and it was a blessing that we were able to, but people don't understand how isolating it is if you're a caregiver. And now people who aren't even caregivers are isolated like that. It can literally be debilitating. And so anybody out there, if you know somebody who doesn't have people living in the home with them, or even if they do, if it's not people that you feel like gives them sustenance and help build them up, just reach out and give them a call, or drop off some food, or any little thing that makes people think somebody else cares. It makes a huge difference in people's lives.
For sure. Yeah. Again, it just goes back to that human connection and contact. And honestly, obviously people are living longer too. And so this whole thing with the caregiver, issue is going to be, it's really, I mean, I feel like there's definitely some paradigm shifts going on right now. And just as an example, so caregiving, an elderly parent. So I'm, rounding the bend to 60. My mom is 90, and we were really fortunate.
Wow.
I have a brother and his girlfriend that live with her. My dad passed away last year at 89. So we're lucky. Our family is really lucky.
Yeah, you have some good genes there.
We do. We have some longevity. That's something like this heart thing, like threw me here a little bit. I guess my point is like we're seeing a lot of different things in terms of how people are choosing to live their lives, and that's one of the things that I love to talk about on my podcast is, what are people's lifestyles like, and everybody's a little bit different. But one of the things that I am seeing with the caregiving issue and people living a lot longer is a lot of multi-generational things going on in terms of living. So you may have parents, family taking care of elderly parents, or, uncle or aunt or whatever. Have, teenage or young adult kids, or kids that have moved back home because, this, the economy and some of the job issues right now. And then you could very well have, some smaller children. So there's a lot of layers in there. And so there's so much going on with this multi-generational concept and ideas about how people are choosing to live. And I think we're going to see, definitely in our lifetime, some big changes coming. And I don't think they're all bad. I really don't.
I don't either. I think a lot of it is good because it's going back to how families were traditionally.
Right.
My daughter went to high school in Japan, and the family that she lived with, it was 3 generations, the grandmother, the parents, and the 2 girls that were my daughter's age. And it was wonderful for her. I mean, the family loved it anyway, and that's how they live over there. But her experience living over there was so much different from being able to live with 3 generations of Japanese people in the same house. She learned so much more than if she had lived in a home with the parents and 2 kids. It was great. And they're still in touch. She still visits them. I mean, she's 30 now, and she still goes over and visits. So I think that's great. Speaking about caregiving, that's one of the things that I do with my business is helping people who either they maybe want to anticipate being ready, because you never know if you're going to be a caregiver, or they already are and they need to adjust. So, I take what I learned, the mistakes that I made with my own business, that I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I knew better, but I took what I learned. I take what I learned from that, and I help other people adjust their business so they're more likely to be able to be caregivers successfully without losing their business and suffering financially.
Yeah, and I think, Lisa, what you're doing right now is phenomenal. I mean, with what your business
Thank
platform is,
you.
how you're helping businesses, trying to help people get the most out of their businesses by, just doing some little tweaks and
Yeah.
digitally, getting some apps involved or
Mhm.
embedded into their business, and doing some social media maybe and things like that. And so, and I have to say, I was so excited when you and I connected because you're working on my website right now.
Yeah.
And the reason we talked, and then we shot some emails back and forth and talked about, like, you get me and I get you because
Yeah.
we're closer in age, So I'm like,
I feel like I found a sister that I didn't know I had.
exactly. Well, and to the point, like, I emailed you this morning and I'm like, and make sure that the font is, like, good and readable. I mean, I don't have my cheaters on right now, but I usually have them on,
Yeah,
So
no,
little things like that you are obviously well aware of in the businesses that you're working with, and what their specific needs are, because it's real life stuff.
yeah, and so your website, for the viewers, anewgoldenage.com, but the site that she has up now is the older site, and we are working on a new one, and you're relaunching your podcast, right?
I am. Yep.
So,
October.
yeah, Jean has a lot of things in the works. I'll need to come back in a couple of weeks
Yeah.
and check out the website and the podcast.
For
When
sure.
are you planning on relaunching the podcast?
We're actually relaunching October 13th. It's not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, October 13th. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. We should have the new website up and going, and I've got some amazing content, a lot of stuff what we talked about today. So I am super excited to have it refurbished or refaced.
I'm excited about helping you, and I'm excited that you're so open to learning new things.
Mm-hmm.
But even though you're relaunching the podcast, you already have a lot of podcast episodes up, right?
Yep, I do. I think I have 23 or 24 in there.
So,
Yep.
okay, y'all have tons of content that you can go listen and be preparing yourselves for when she does relaunch. And the podcast name is also A New Golden Age, correct?
Correct. Yep. And so one of the things, just real quick, in terms of the podcast, what really the biggest thing I'm doing with that is, again, just trying to get that information and current information about the future forward thinking. We can all go to a lot of sites, and I won't name any of them, that have some fairly dated stuff on there, but I'm kind of more of our current trendy kind of girl. So, I mean, I'm doing an episode on a retirement platform that I'm super excited about, that just was launched by a bunch of 30-year-olds. It's amazing. So it's for somebody that hasn't retired, or I'm sorry, hasn't planfully retired. It's this platform that is it's state of the art, and it's super affordable. And even retirement, like, people sometimes don't go to financial planners because they don't think they can afford them, or or
they're embarrassed or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And these guys are they're awesome. So it's that kind of content. It's like current what's going on, what's going forward, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, well, I'm excited. You have a message from Jody Struck Amsbury. So excited for more great listening. Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast, and so I'm excited about the new episodes coming up. One of the other things that I've been doing is helping people who have been laid off from their job, who never thought about starting a business, but they're like our age, and they go, "Oh my God, I'm never going to get hired." Because naturally we all go, oh, if I'm over 40 or whatever, nobody's going to want me. So I've been helping a lot of people in that situation figure out how they can start their own business and actually end up being better off than if they were out just humping it, trying to find a job.
Right.
Because then you can figure out the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, where you want to live, if you want to have local clients, whatever, and use your own special particular skill set and experiences that, again, irreplaceable. Nobody like you. Use that to turn it into a business.
Well, and I think the other big thing to go along with that too is even if it's a business maybe that you don't just have a passion for and interest, you don't necessarily have the experience, don't be afraid to go check it out, because that's the thing. Like, I have no media background. Virtually none. I have figured this out, literally dug it out of the dirt, like figuring out how to do a podcast. These guys that say, oh, you can set a podcast up in 30 minutes, they're not 58. Just say it. I mean, there's a lot to it. And if you want to do it right, I mean, I don't care what age you are. If you want to do it right, you, and whatever that profession or that career that you're in.
And that's a very good point, Jean. You had no media experience, no podcasting experience, but your experience is people-to-people communication, marketing, sales. So you have, what you are doing is building a business on a skill set and experience that you already have. But you're applying that to a totally different kind of new business. And that's what people need to understand is we don't have to stay locked in to where we are. I know a lot of people, you know, when we were growing up, it's like you go to college, you get your degree, you get a job, and that's what you do. Whether you like it or not, that's what you do. And so a lot of people end up really unhappy, really unsatisfied and unfulfilled, but we were raised to, that's what you do. And so if you have been laid off, try to look at it as an adventure and an opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying it's not scary. Financially, I know it can be terrifying. And I mean, I lost my biggest client, you know, and that was on retainer. So I've had some really big financial hits. So I'm not like, you know, pie in the sky, everything's wonderful. But you got to figure out a way to adapt. And this is your chance to do something crazy that, you know, try something you would have been afraid to do before.
And fun. I mean, I've not had, I mean, every day when I think about, you know, what I'm going to do and the next steps and where I want to grow this to, I mean, this is just the very beginning for me. I mean, I get so excited, like I literally have to pinch myself. Sometimes I'm like, okay, settle down. Like, you know, you just have to take this, like, you know.
There's so much opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing, people think, oh, everything's been done on the web. If I haven't done it yet, it's too late. I'm going to tell y'all, I've been doing this since 1996. I was there in the Wild West days. I was around before Google was around. We are literally just seeing the tip of the iceberg. We have no idea. And I think the way that I can get people to understand it best that are around our age is think what the telephone was like when we were growing up. A lot of people didn't even have a phone. You know, we lived in a lot of people didn't have a phone, or they might have had a party line or something like that. And now we're walking around with computers in our pockets.
Exactly.
You know, so think of the internet like telephones and how telephones have evolved and their entire industries around telephones. You don't have to know how to make a telephone and create a telephone and do all the technical stuff. All you got to do is use the telephone. So call centers, whatever, it's not like those people know how to make a telephone. So I think that's what everybody needs to try to use that analogy when you think about the web.
Yeah. Anything that you want to know is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You might have to dig a little bit for it, and you might have to read more than 1 or 2 or 3, 4 sources, but you know, to get a full understanding of it, because obviously there's different opinions about different things. But for the most part, I mean, it just takes diligence and time and you know, the desire, the want and the desire to pursue that. So yeah, anything is attainable. I guess that's what I would say, is anything in your mind that you think that you would like to pursue is attainable. You just have to figure out what the path is and how to get there and what you need to do. And, you know, the other thing is, just a quick note, I mean, you and I did not know each other 2 months ago, not ago. And like, I would have never met you in a million years. And I'm trying to think, oh, the reason we met is you were on Steve Sims' podcast. I listen to him all the time. And then I'm like connected with you on LinkedIn and sent you a note, and pretty soon we're like chatting away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the beauty of this networking opportunity that we have right at our fingertips. And again, the source of information that you can gain just by, you know, shooting out an email or messaging somebody, you know.
And you never know who you might connect with. So we kind of accidentally connected because I happened to be on Steve's podcast. And one of my guests the other week on the show, the guy that wrote the book about Motown, he is the former editor-in-chief of Billboard magazine. and the former vice president of communications for Universal Music Group.
Oh, wow.
Retired now, but an expert in Motown. And he and Barney Ailes, who was Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown, Barney Ailes was the second in command. They wrote the book about Motown, huge, thick book, all these photographs that have never been seen. I would have never met him.
Never
Met Adam. But I ran across his site because he had an interview with my cousin, who is a writer, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, y'all, if you want to know the story behind it, you can go to my site. Go to LisaKipps-Brown.com and watch that episode. But so I saw the blog post, and I messaged my cousin. I'm like, hey, did you know this is on here? It's his #1 post, has been for years. No, I didn't know it. So that turned into me and the guy, Adam, getting to know each other. And he was on my Facebook Live show.
Right.
And I literally live in a town of 1,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole county is like, probably, it might not even be 35,000 people. It might be like 32 now. I don't know. 30-some thousand. And he lives in London. Yeah. And, you know, I would have never dreamed. Yeah. I would have never dreamed that I would have. And don't get me wrong, I've met a lot of famous people. I have a friend who is a New York Times bestselling author and everything. But just the fact that he and I met so quickly and so totally coincidentally, you know, it's cool. You never know who's around the corner.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest takeaway for starting your business or anything, getting over being sick, anything? What do you think is what do you want people to take away from this?
I think we all come with an incredible amount of tools and skill sets that we have. We don't always use them to the degree that we probably should or could. Yeah. And I think personally, I mean, I'll just use the health thing, you know, as an example. I mean, I had to kind of, and I don't want to say hit rock bottom, but I was at a pretty low place and I was pretty despondent thinking, I don't know what kind of health I'm going to have for the next years. And I thought to myself, like, I can do one of two things. I can be proactive and I can grab the bull by the horns. And, you know, I scheduled some appointments. I went to Mayo Clinic, which was not cheap. You can't put a number on can't put a number on your health. And I knew that I had to do these things to figure it out. I didn't get all the answers there that I wanted, but I dug even deeper inside of me, I think, to figure out, well, what can I do? I think you have to be your own best advocate. I don't care if it's your health or your relationship or your finances or whatever it might be. Like, you have to be your own advocate. And so again, using health as an example, I literally pitched every bad thing in my house, food-wise, and I actually didn't even have that much bad stuff. I mean, I was really pretty healthy eater for the most part, but I pitched anything and everything that I didn't think that I should be eating. Completely modified my diet, and I'll tell you that I do have some cheat days, and I do kind of revert back to, you know, some of the foods that I absolutely love, but for the most part, I eat super healthy, and so I had to decide deep down inside of me what I was willing to change or possibly give up to make my life better to get to that next place. And so I think you can use that whether you're talking about your health. I think that you can use it about thinking about starting a new career. Trust me, I mean, a new entrepreneurial pivot for you is going to cost you some money probably. And so, you know, you got to dig deep in your pockets to maybe pay for some things that aren't necessarily going to show you immediate gratification.
Right.
So I think you just have to be willing to understand that there are some things that you're going to have to change and possibly give up and kind of rearrange in your life. So,
and you're basically talking about investing in yourself. And we're not too old to invest in ourselves. You know, a lot of people get to a certain age and they're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Whatever it is. I don't care whether it's getting a haircut or, you know, buying new clothes or going somewhere or learning something. You know, we get in that rut, but you have to invest in yourself.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean financially, but you have to understand that you are of value and you need to invest in yourself to keep yourself going. Keep that fire stoked up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because otherwise, I mean, and it's a choice. It's all a choice about how you want to live your life. I mean,
Yeah.
you can go after it and continue to go after it until the day you leave this earth, or you can just sit back and watch it go by.
Oh, I
And,
can't even imagine being
you
like
know,
that.
me neither.
I really appreciate you being here on here with me. And y'all listeners, make sure that you go to her website, anewgoldenage.com. Look for her podcast. Is iTunes. Where else can they find it?
It's all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. It's on almost, I was going to say all the main ones, all the main players.
And I failed to mention your community on Facebook.
I know.
Yeah, you have the group. Y'all need to go join her community, and that's called the New Golden Age, correct?
Yep. And so, I'm just getting started on that. And, I'm looking at, there's some launch things that I'm doing when the podcast gets launched next week. But yeah, that is going to be a huge piece of my platform and how I want to build this out to get the word out and get the information out. So
yeah, and if people join your group, you never know who you will meet. I'm a member of 2 of Steve Sims' private group that we were talking about early, 2 of his private groups, and I meet people from all over the world in there. So
right.
You just never know, and you never know when you'll reconnect with somebody you'd forgotten about or connect with somebody new.
Right.
So it's a whole new world out there. We're all just getting started,
I believe that.
and I love what you say about making this half of your life the best half of your life,
Yep.
rather than just people think it's all downhill from now.
It's all over. Yeah, you do get that every once in a while from people. I'm like, what more can I do? And that's not the case.
So check out Jean's podcast, A New Golden Age. Check out her website, but remember, within a couple of weeks, she's going to have a new site. Go join her group on Facebook, A New Golden Age, and connect with her on LinkedIn. So, y'all get out there, connect, get to know new people. And if you've enjoyed this show, I hope you'll come back next week. I have a different guest every Thursday at 7:00 Eastern time. And I hope you'll join me. And I look forward to talking to you again, Jean.
I do too, Lisa. Thank you.
Hang on for a minute after we get off here, okay? Hang on for a minute.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.